So today, as we draw our Easter season to a close, it's been a 50-day party as we celebrate the resurrection. And because it's been our season of celebration, we've gotten a little bit out of the habit of confession. We set that aside for the season. So I thought today we would practice a little bit and see how we do with that. So you can do it with just sort of a sheepish show of hands. How many of you got up early yesterday or watched the video clips or saw the pictures of the royal wedding? Go ahead. Yeah, great stuff, wasn't it? Right? With the carriage and all of the pomp and circumstance, the gospel choir singing in Windsor Chapel. And how about the sermon? By the presiding bishop of the American Episcopal Church, referencing and quoting Martin Luther King Jr., referencing faith under slavery and how that grew and developed, and go ahead. And how many of you also watched for the hats? Yeah. It was one of those great cultural moments for us, wasn't it? When we get to sort of a little bit of escapism, a little bit of living in another fantasy world, a little bit of that fairy tale there. So you did well with that. Let's try something else. How many of you this week saw and watched either on TV or saw the clips or went to see the pictures of the airplane crash in Cuba? 100 people died. How about the bombs that went off in the cricket match in Afghanistan? Yeah. How about the protests in Palestine? Yeah, 60 people dead, but the wall's fine. How about Santa Fe? Yeah, another shooting. Again, another shooting. 10 people died. 10 people plus wounded. And it leaves us not sure what to do, just brokenhearted. So hard to watch those pictures, to see that in our feed, to know what to do. And because this is a complicated situation, because this is a complicated topic, and because so much of our world and our culture depends on simple sound bites, think Twitter, Facebook, politics, advertising. All of those are built around simple sound bites, and so we've been well trained to believe that only simple solutions and simple ideas are going to work. But it is a complicated situation, and because it's complicated, it feels scary. And so our leaders who depend on sound bites lead us nowhere, and we don't know what to do. I got to tell you, the thing about Santa Fe that bothers me maybe the most was my reaction. And I wonder if you felt this too. When those headlines popped up in my feed, and when I saw them in the newspaper or on TV, my reaction was, oh, again. Maybe you felt that too. That this is becoming almost normal. Did you feel that too? Again, another one. And again. Because these issues are complicated and we've been well trained to look only for simple, it leaves us afraid to move one way or the other when we know that one way or the other can't be the answer. It has to be multiple and it has to be complicated, and so it's easier to stay where we are. Again, it happened again. And so we gather today here at the end of the Easter season, as we do always at the end of our 50-day party on Pentecost. That day we remember when the Holy Spirit poured out on the apostles and disciples gathered there in the midst of the Thanksgiving festival in Jerusalem. And you heard, as we talked with the kids and as we heard the story, that this is not a gentle thing. It's the sound of a tornado. There it is. Tornadoes are not gentle. This is a hurricane that came through into this locked room. This is a violent wind and fire, open flames in a locked room, in an enclosed space. We know what happens with that. This is dangerous. This is no bashful ghost. that showed up in that room. This is God's Holy Spirit filled with power and might that changes everything. Maybe that's why us Lutherans are usually uncomfortable talking and thinking about the Holy Spirit. Historically, if you look at our hymnals, the section where it says the category across the top and it says Holy Spirit is the smallest one. We hardly know how to talk about this Holy Spirit because it feels a little uncouth, a little out of control, a little bit not in good order. This is a little dangerous, this Holy Spirit that we call upon today. Now, you probably remember that we know that the Bible was written in Hebrew and Greek. So those are our biblical languages. And as it happens, both in Hebrew and in Greek, the word that we translate as spirit has other meanings as well. In both Hebrew and Greek, that word for spirit also means wind. And it means breath. And if you studied another language, you know that often it means all of those at the same time. And so that moment in Jerusalem was God's holy breath poured out on the apostles. God's breath that invaded that room with the sound of a tornado and the flickering of fire in an unclosed space. Wind, spirit, breath. God's holy breath. And I want to tell you, every time I hear that notion of breath, and I'm reminded that spirit also means God's breath, there's a story that I think of every time. And it's the second of our creation stories. The second one. The first one, of course, is God creating with a voice, right? This is God, all-powerful and removed. Let there be light. But that second creation story is very different, isn't it? Because you remember this story. It's God down in the dirt. God kneeling in the clay and the dust and the mud. It's God down getting his fingers filthy, right? All of it caked up under his fingernails as he draws and shapes a toe. Smooths the toenail, builds those strong bones, and then scratches out the veins and arteries, stretches the nerves, and then smooths the skin over top it all. Does all the little wrinkles on the knuckles, the hair follicles, eyelashes. And by the time he's finished there in the dirt and he leans back against his heels, standing there before him, you remember this story, is a mud guy. A statue made of dust and clay and dirt and mud. Lifeless, standing there. And you remember what happened next, what God did, right? It says God breathed into his nostrils. And the mud guy took a breath. Can you picture that? Can you picture God leaning in to breathe into the mud guy's nostrils? And can you picture how close God had to come? If you have trouble picturing it, feel free to turn to a neighbor and breathe into their nostrils. Yeah, even just that squirrely feeling you just got is the whole point, right? Imagine God coming that close so that his breath would come into our nostrils. Do you like that idea? God that close? Jesus did it too, right? You remember that story. On Easter Day in the afternoon or evening, the disciples locked themselves away because they didn't know what was going on and they didn't know what was coming next, except they were pretty sure they were the next ones that were going to be on the cross. And so they locked all the doors. Lock them up. Let's lock all the windows. Let's huddle down here so nobody knows that we're here. And into the middle of them, Jesus showed up, standing there in the middle of them. And you remember what he said? Peace be with you. And then it says he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy breath. Receive the Holy Spirit. Do you like that idea? Jesus close enough that you can feel his breath. Does it leave you a little uncomfortable? Because often we want God a little bit at arm's length, right? We want the God that says, let there be light, and then stays away. It leaves more space for us so that we can be in charge, and we can be, by our own work and our hard work and our hands and all that stuff, we can be the ones who are creating the future and making sure that everything's okay, and our security depends on us. But how about that feeling of God right here? Does it leave you uncomfortable? That idea of God close enough for us to absorb his breath? What if you were on that plane in Cuba? How about then? What if you were in that stadium in Afghanistan? How would you feel then? What if you were there in the midst of the crowds when the sniper started shooting in Palestine? How about then? Or if you were in Santa Fe? What if you were the teenager that locked herself in an art supply closet, cramming markers under the door to keep it shut, while your classmates stood outside and said, surprise, and shot through the door? When you are so afraid that you've lost your very breath. How about then? Would you welcome God's breath then? God closer by than our next breath. How about if you were the people gathered in Valparaiso, called to be the body of Christ in this corner of God's creation? And where we sit, we watch a high school. And we have people from area high schools who are here too. We have children who are in those schools. And we sit here and say again, and we don't know what to do. How about then? That idea of God breathing his Spirit, breathing his wisdom, breathing his power, breathing his strength, breathing his mercy, breathing his love for our children and for our world into us. How would we feel about that then? God's holy breath. God close enough by to breathe into us. Come, Holy Spirit, breathe in us today.